Well, hi everybody. My name's Andy Napick, and I am a photographer and artist here in Tucson. I am somebody who's been known to uh, take what should be a small, simple project and really make it large and difficult. And seeing as that you are all here in a movie theater, coming to watch a movie about a photography portrait project, you can probably catch my drift there. But being that as it may, I thought it might be a good idea to give you a little background on the project. So here we go. So it started about a year ago. I was in a bit of a creative lull at the time, looking for something to do, and just was out to dinner one night and happened to see a girl who was working at the restaurant, and she had this very striking goth look about her, sort of the pale skin and dark makeup, black lipstick, black nails, black hair, layered jewelry, very striking. And what really caught me though wasn't just her looks or her style, but it was her presence about her, and there was really something very honest and expressive about it that I really liked. And I've always been really kind of drawn to the goth and emo aesthetic and look, the sort of the contrast and the starkness, the mood, and sort of the visual presence of it all. And so after I saw her and started thinking about it, I thought it might be kind of fun to do a few photos. And so I put a message out on social media just asking if anyone in Tucson who kind of identified with that look might be interested and be up for doing some portraits. My studio is also near a lot of tattoo artists, and I would see a lot of people coming and going with body art, piercings, and really sort of that bold self-expression type of look that I really liked. And so I thought, well, let's include some of them as well. And so it started out as a few goth emo folks, and then I threw in some tattoo, body art, piercing folks. And then it started really kind of growing from there. I started hearing from people in the queer community and burlesque performers and horror fans, and then there was just people who sort of identified as alt, but in no specific category. And so that word alt really kind of stuck, and it really kind of gave the project the anchor, I think, that I was looking for. So the project really started to grow. What started out, like I said, something small, let's grab a few people and do some pictures, all of a sudden was 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40. I finally had to, put a cap on it. I thought I have to stop at some point. So I decided to stop at 50. Well, ended up going to 53 different individuals and couples. And the key to this project really was from the start that I wanted to shoot and treat every one of these individuals or subjects different. I wanted every final image to look different. I wanted to really show their personalities and sort of express them in a way that I kind of see them. I made a point to approach every shoot a little differently, different lighting, different posing. We did different wardrobes. I let them really bring whatever wardrobe they wanted to bring and try some different things. And every session produced hundreds of photos. I mean, some 800, 900, a lot. And at the end, though, I had set the goal. I was picking one image for each subject for the project, and that was really the hardest part. At this point, the project was turning into like a real thing, like really gaining some momentum, full-scale body of work. And so I needed to give it a name. And I thought about different titles, you know, Alt Community in Tucson, or Living in the Alt World, I don't know, all sorts of different stuff. Eventually I ended up calling it the Alt Pueblo. So it's playing off Tucson's nickname, the Old Pueblo. And I just felt, because these folks that I was photographing weren't just part of Tucson, they kind of existed in their own version of it. So I thought the Alt Pueblo was fitting. So now I had all these portraits, and what was I going to do with them? So I wanted to do a gallery show, and I actually had everything lined up. There was a gallery in the same building as my studio, and I'd gotten to know Cynthia, the woman who ran the gallery, and she had seen the people coming and going during the project. She was very encouraging about having a gallery show there. So we set it up, had a date set, everything was ready to go. And then one day I get a text that I have to be out of my studio in less than a week. The building, something was wrong with the building, and the roof was going to collapse or something. Not only was I going to lose my studio, which I loved, but the gallery was in the same building, so I was losing my gallery show at the same time. To say I was frustrated is a massive understatement. I was pretty goddamn pissed off at the world at the time. So after a few weeks went by, and I was calming down some, I actually got an email from a company that had a virtual gallery I had done some work with a few years prior. The timing just felt weirdly perfect, like maybe this was the new path to go down. It really checked all the boxes for what I needed. I wanted to be able to show all the images, which I could. I could have found some smaller spaces in Tucson to show prints of the project, but I wouldn't have been able to show all of them, and I didn't want to leave anybody out. I felt like it was important to have everybody's picture involved in the project. And with the virtual gallery, I was able to do that. I thought, how do I share this without just sending a link out on the internet or on people look at it on their phone, because it really loses its impact that way. I thought this really deserves a bigger stage to be shown, and that's when I started thinking about making like a short film, something that could include like behind the scenes and stories of the project and stuff like this here, me talking to you. And I thought, where would you show a film like that? Well, in a movie theater. And now, here we are, with all of you watching it on this nice big movie screen. This project really means a lot to me. And to me, portraits just aren't about how people look. They're really about expression and identity and showing one's self. And as a photographer, I really love working with people and trying to get them to express themselves in different ways. So I hope this show really gives you a glimpse into the people who participated in this and their energy and the spirit that made it all really come together. So enjoy the film. I hope you love it, and thanks for being here. So now that you've seen what the pictures look like when they're finished, I like to kind of walk through the process a little bit and show sort of beginning to end, or what I call from taking the picture to creating the image, because there's a lot of steps in between. Starts when I photograph the subject, and you'll be able to see here a few different examples of how I do things a little different in the studio. We start with Joey. Joey had several different looks and outfits, but this was my favorite, and with the goggles. And so I did some very special lighting with this and encased Joey inside this white room, kind of, to give him some very unique lighting on. And then with Robin, sort of the opposite. Lower key lighting. Robin's wearing blacks against a black background, so I went a little darker, but did this sort of edge lighting effect, really accentuated Robin and what they were wearing, and I thought it turned out just fantastic. Just separating from the black background, I thought looked really amazing. Lastly, Julia. We did a lot of different looks, a lot of different kind of things. This was just one example where I used these colored LED lights, and you can see how just the different colors and how it sort of acts. But then the final image that I used was made using studio strobes and the severe backlighting, and then I just kind of kept moving until I could see where that backlight hit right behind her. It looked like her hair was just kind of on fire. And that was really the shot. That was a really great shot, I could tell at the time. And it ended up being the one that I used as the reference for the final image, which turned out amazing. So after the pictures are taken, I do some post-production work. It can be a little, it can be a lot, it just depends on the image. It's what the kids nowadays are calling editing, doing your edits. But it's really far more than just editing or edits. I mean, there can be a lot that really goes into it. It can just be as simple as sharpening or color correction if the image doesn't call for much, or it can be something full-blown, creating a whole new scene. So we'll look at a few different ones here. Start with Steve. Steve, all I wanted to focus on was his body art, which was amazing, and he was very comfortable with the camera and expressing and giving, some real eye communication with the camera. So we went with that. So all I really did was just, enhance probably the colors in this image and give a little more contrast, and then that was it. It's exactly how we shot it in the studio. The same here with Kirby. Kirby did amazing with her makeup. I really was looking to focus on that, and her face, and very pretty, and just how it all kind of came together, jewelry and all that, hair. And so once again, didn't have to do much here, just simpler is better. Then Lisa, so now you're starting to see some mid-range sort of back-end work that I would do. So this one I wanted to go a little bit more kind of a haunting look. Brought out color in her eyes, sort of this brownish color, lightened it up so they stood out more from the blue background. The red chair, I went with the blue background against the red chair, and then brought out her tattoos more, and was really happy with this. So then next here we have Autumn. Autumn was a hoot and a half. She's always laughing and smiling, so I definitely wanted to capture that in the image. She also was in roller derby, which I thought was cool, and she brought her skates. So I thought that was kind of important. So it just had her kind of do some different poses and stuff. This was a great pose that we got, but I felt like it needed a little bit more environmental change. So now we're getting into where I start changing backgrounds and do some different things. So I insert her into an industrial kind of a background, concrete, and then this sort of strong pose, but she's smiling and laughing, which I thought kind of captured all of what I was looking. And then now we start getting into more kind of let's change the story and the image a little bit. So Sarah with the vampire motif going. So I wanted to make sure that I heavily accented the vampire fangs, changing out the background, adding in some effects to where it seems very nighttime-ish, and she has this sort of aura about her. So, and then I did some painting and colorizing and colored in her eyes a little more and made her look a little more scary. But I'm really happy with how that turned out. And then Muriel, she really was kind of into honeybees and had these tattoos on her already. And then brought this bikini, the yellow and black striped bikini, to the shoot. So I definitely thought this was a way I wanted to go. So I worked quite a while on this. I just pictured her at a beach, obviously because with the bikini, but then with the bee theme, I kind of built it out so you can see the bee in the background there, and sort of a boardwalk kind of thing and beach, and so made this much more of a story character art kind of thing, concept art. And then lastly, Juno. When Juno showed up with the nun outfit and the Bible and the cross, this juxtaposition I thought just was waiting to happen. So when I photographed them, I really drove Juno to be expressive, and what are you feeling when you wear this, and really drove Juno to try and express as much as they could. And then I always kind of pictured it in a scene like this, so sort of a dilapidated rundown church, and Juno's kind of questioning or looking maybe for some answers. So I love to create stories within my images. I feel like every part of this process, there's a story behind it. There's a story behind the person, a story behind the image that I create, why I do what I do. I think as a portrait artist, I see different things in different people, which lead me to create images in a different way. If you just take this one of Arden, from the very instant that we were shooting this, I just thought I really wanted to work in black and white with her. She has light colored skin, she has red hair, but the tones really come out well in black and white with some deep contrast. And then I was able to pick up her eyes kind of poking through here, her hair, which I really like. It just breaks it down into a really conceptual form, which I really like. And then if you go, so like Maddie here, wasn't really quite sure the direction, but it really felt like there needed to be some sort of movement. I wasn't seeing any kind of vintage painting look or anything like that. I saw more of a retro. So that's where I went, sort of black and white with these different effects around it, and then finish it off with this sort of streaming light effect wrapped around her, which I thought really finished this off nicely, gave it a different edge. Sort of with Sam here, wasn't really sure which way to go. Sam has this real buff rocker look, but he's, I think, the nicest guy. And so there's a lot of pictures of him kind of smiling and stuff, which are cool. We did these towards the end of the shoot where I'm like, just do some different body movements, kind of kneel down, do some different things. And so I found this one, which I kind of like. I just feel like it puts him in a different position where the viewer isn't quite sure maybe what to make of him at this point. And then I worked in, all I did was just really messed with a lot of different color effects. I put a background in that's kind of this industrial background, and then I just started playing with hues and saturations and different color effects. And all of a sudden what came was this red, fiery looking scene, and then now you can really see his eyes kind of staring at you, and I think it just gives him this really cool look. So I was very happy with this. But you know, all of these portraits, it's like I wanted them all to be different, and I succeeded, I think. I really think I spent the time to really kind of dig down with people and get them to kind of break. Some of them I had to break out of their shell, and others were way out of their shell, very comfortable in front of the camera. And so what I wanted from them was not to do sort of the same stuff that they always did, to kind of shake it up a little bit. I think it just goes to show that when you do projects like this, these things just sort of pan out. And some images take me forever to come to a conclusion on picking one out of all of these. I mean, I'm taking hundreds of images of all of these, and some of them take me forever. Some of them I get right away. I would say too that there's no meaning behind whether I did a lot of back work to them, these images. So like Julia here turned out magnificent, but as did this picture of Sarah and her mom, Kathy. I didn't need to do anything with this picture. I felt like it'd be subtraction by addition if I tried to do more than just this. And I feel like I need to talk about this one as well, with Yelena. So when Yelena showed up for her shoot, she came fully prepared, as well most people did, but she came with four very distinct wardrobe changes, and she had sort of personalities built behind them. So I even made a note here in my notebook at the time because I felt that was very important. This might be the only time in this whole shoot where I knew from the time we started what I wanted the final product to look like. And so she came, like I said, 4 wardrobes. One was the badass, one was business, one was seductive, and one was the belle. And she had tattoos on her as well, sort of symbolizing all these different things. And she's a tarot card reader, which I thought was really cool, and I enjoy watching her on Instagram with that. So I thought, right away that's kind of the direction I want to go, is like make these into 4 like tarot cards, kinda, but based on each of these personalities. And you can see here kind of how it shook out. I created each one really specific to the character. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought they really turned out well. A lot of work goes into those images from beginning to end. And next up, you're going to see a specific image I did of Judas, and we had really an amazing shoot and so many great pictures, but I finally dialed it into one. And you're going to see from the beginning when we shot it all the way through until the very end when I frame it, how I get there. So stay tuned. Hey there, everybody.
Howdy, howdy.
Hi, I'm here with Chloe, aka Judas, and we're here doing an awesome shoot today. And what I'm going to do is we're going to do beginning to end, from the time we start in the studio to the time I'm done with the final print, so you guys can kind of see the process that goes into it. And of course, I'll time lapse it so it goes really fast. Otherwise, you'd be on here for like 5 hours. But chance for you guys to see I get asked a lot on how I do what I do. So this will be a chance for you to see it. So pay attention, all right? Well, that's it. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. This is something unusual. I've never done anything like this before, but I sure had a good time making it, and I had a really great time working with everybody I worked with. So let's everybody just live our lives and have fun, and whether it's wearing fishnets and black lipstick or vampire fangs or making a movie about our art to invite all our friends to come see, whatever it is, we should all just live life and get along together and find joy within one another. Thank you.